Thanks for checking out this video. My name is Bill DeLongis. I am the Assistant Director of Strength and Conditioning at Stony Brook University. I decided to take a page out of Mark Watts and Ron McKeefery's book and do a sit-down interview with another strength coach. I sit down with Coach Mike Ericksen, the head strength and conditioning coach at Central Connecticut State University, where he has held that position since 1997. I got to watch a couple of the football team lifts before we did this interview, and I must say Mike runs a top-notch program over there, so I am certain you will enjoy the next 16 minutes of your life. Sit back and enjoy. Tell us about your journey and how you got where you are today.
Well, first started playing athletics in high school, so played football, and then my senior year I got into a pretty bad car accident and I couldn't play my senior year, so I knew the college route wasn't going to necessarily be good for me that way, so I joined the military. I actually joined the Army and I spent 3 years in Panama serving this country, and then realizing how much you can push the human body is what really got me interested in the field of strength and conditioning. So when I got out of the military, went to college, came to Central Connecticut State University, did their exercise science program, and I had a very unique situation to kind of get into the field. Mike Golden, who's currently up at UMass right now, was a part-time strength coach here just working with basketball. And he gave me an opportunity as an undergrad to work and help with him with a couple teams. I was working volleyball and softball by myself as still an undergrad. He allowed to take the football job at UConn, and an opportunity was presented to me by our assistant athletic director if I wanted to take over the program. At the time, there had been no really strength conditioning program outside of Mike working with our basketball program. So they let me take the program and said on an interim basis, we'll see how you do. So as an undergrad, I was given a head strength and conditioning job here. And I've been here ever since. I had to kind of work my way through a lot of coaches, never being exposed to the field. This was back in 1996 when a lot of coaches were still hesitant about having their teams come and do some organized strength conditioning programs, so we had to sell ourselves. Back in the day, I was a by myself strength coach working literally 80 hours a week, grinding it out, and then as the program has developed, we've been real fortunate to kind of just keep on adding staff here, and I think we've done a pretty good job of starting where we come from to where we are now.
So who are some of your big mentors and people and coaches that influenced you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by some great coaches within the department. Coach Cinerino, who was our football coach when I first got the job here, he was the one that really gave me the reins to run this football program. So I really do hold a lot of respect for that man, because I was a young coach at the time and he really gave me his program and let me do it. But within the field of strength conditioning, I did my intern work down at Yale under Steve Plisk, and he really showed me a different approach to strength conditioning that I didn't think you could do. A lot of the European style and just a different approach to it. And I was also very fortunate to have Coach Martin up at UConn, who every time I asked him to come up on a visit, he'd let me come up, and I'd bug him every day and just ask him a million questions about the field. And then in my travels, Coach Boyle up at BU at the time, he did a great job, just always helped me out. And again, I've always been very fortunate to be surrounded by great staff too, that when I've hired people, they've been in phenomenal programs. So when they would come in, I would literally pick their brains and find out what they did at their programs and really try to integrate that to what we do here. And that's kind of where we developed our programs from. Obviously, those two mentors in my life have played a huge part of it, but then also my own staff coming in from their own programs, bringing their different ideas.
All right, so next question, since you're the head guy for football, is going to be in regards to football. Tell me about your program, what are your core lifts, and the principles you follow with the programs that you run.
All right, well, again, because background was from Coach Plisk, we took his style. He has a unique style that he did with his program. It's a conjugate style. It's very similar to a wave. We've kind of taken that programming and taken it to the next level. So there's really not a style. I would not say I'm a tier guy or a 5-3-1 guy. We have our own system here that we've used from Coach Plisk, and it's kind of unique in its sense of how we design things. Everything's based off percentages, and we run our system on 3-week blocks, and then we have a recovery week, and then we back up and we go back to the 3-week blocks. And every time we have within our week, our athletes are always going to have a different weight. So they'll have a heavy day, they'll have a speed day, and then they'll have an explosive day. So percentages are based off of that. So we'll run almost like it'd be similar to how a wave is run, but it's not a wave program. So it's very unique in itself. Our core lifts that we spend the prime time with our football team is our clean, squat, and bench, reach do all variations of the Olympic lifts though. So we'll do snatch, we do push, jerk, jump shrug, power pull. In season we tend to do more pulls than regular cleans. As far as lower body, we do every variation you can imagine for the lower body. So we'll squat, we'll box squat. We've gotten a little bit away from front squat. We do Zercher squat now as one of our secondary lifts. Obviously lunge, split squat, tons of variations. And the same thing with upper body. We do a lot of push-pull. We're always constantly trying to do posterior work as well as our anterior work with our press work. We also do a lot of pull work. And then obviously lower body, we spend a tremendous amount of time doing posterior chain work because, again, that's where the motor comes from. So the stronger our lower body is, that's where we're going to get more power from football.
Okay. Keeping with the football, what changes do you make in season? I know you said you kind of switch away from the full clean and go towards the pulls. What other changes do you make in season?
We'll tend to go more on a traditional wave programming during in-season. Again, just because the amount of volume that they're getting during games and then during practice, we'll usually run like a 5-4-3 system, and we'll base off percentages off of that. So I tend to go a little bit with Prillikins programming when we're in season, but we typically run around that programming. And the same thing with the Olympic lifts, we'll do a 4-3-2. But again, the percentages is where I base everything off of. As far as, we're pretty aggressive here. We don't take our foot off the pedal too much. I mean, we'll crank up our weights and keep our weights fairly heavy until we hit our conference play. So we'll keep our regular programming as we progress through and we start hitting the volume of our conference. Then we start doing a little more recovery work. We'll back off of our secondary lifts. We'll just hit our prime lifts and we'll spend more time doing recovery. And our secondary work, we'll do a lot more body weighted exercises, and that's where our focus will be. And then on Sundays, we'll still get in the weight room, but we'll go in the pool a little bit more. Again, really trying to just unload the body, try to give our kids a little bit of a break because, by the time they hit conference play, they're pretty beat up, but I still want to keep our strength levels up in non-conference. But in the conference, I still want to get some strength development, but I'm still backing off on the a little bit of the intensity at that point in time.
Gotcha. Do you implement any conditioning tests?
Yep. Our conditioning test that we use here is the 300-yard shuttle test. We do it at 25-yard increments, so they have to make a total of 6 up and backs at 25 yards. Our times are as follows. We go, our skill guys have to hit that 57 seconds. Our combo are 58, and our linemen are at 64. They have a 2-minute, 30-second recovery, and they have to repeat that same test. For them to pass our test, they have to hit every one of those numbers each time. They're not given a range, so they have to hit 58 every single time if you're a combo or 64. So it can be tough for our big boys, but the incentive of that is that they stay for the summertime and they're exempt for the run test. And they make 95% of their workout, they're exempt for the run test.
Gotcha. So it's 2 reps of that?
Yep.
So how do you schedule all these teams that you have here?
Well, we have a unique system here with our scheduling. We have what's called block scheduling. So our academics will actually be able to block off times for our athletes for practice. The problem that we run into, though, we're not able to block off times for strength conditioning. So our kids are able to block off a time from, say, 1 to 3 for practice, but then we still got to try to work around our scheduling. And again, our scheduling here can be a challenge, just like it is in any program, but we really try to work around it. Certain sports are given priority. I look at the commitment they make to the programming is where I give them priority because I feel if they're going to commit to our room, they're going to get the first opportunity to train here. So typically our football team and our swimmers, surprisingly enough, typically get first priority. And then we look at scheduling. Obviously our bigger sports like track will always go early morning because we can get everybody in at that time. And then we try to look at our in-season sports where in fall our soccers will go early morning, and then we try to work it around the scheduling. So we try to look at our scheduling of our kids. And we have a good relationship with our academic center. They'll send us the athletes' schedules. Unfortunately, we have to look through every schedule and find the time and then talk to the coach and do it. But we wind up having 2 groups at the same time, so going into the room. So we may have 2 groups of lacrosse in a day just because they all can't work out at one time. But it's unfortunate, that's just what we have to do in this profession.
What is the most unique thing about your program here?
Our mental toughness training. I know everyone says, mentally tough. Well, use football as an example. We do everything possible to try to prepare them for the game of football without ever actually putting pads on and having to hit somebody. So in our room, we really try to focus on mental toughness. That's obviously the tempo of the room, the way we're going to run, just simple stuff to organize the room. Like the weight's out of order, the kids have to do push-ups because something's out of order, just like the game. Well, one thing that we really do to try to get that mental toughness aspect that a lot of programs don't do is we do wall sits every single week. And we start out with half their body weight. They have to do a wall sit for half their body weight, and we start out a minute 30 seconds. Every single week through the off season, we add 30 seconds onto that clock. So when they first started doing this, a minute 30 seconds with half their body weight, so we got an offensive lineman, that's 150 pounds sitting on his lap. His legs are quivering, he's ready to quit, and we encourage them and strongly get on them in a good, positive way to get them through that. And they understand that once they get through that minute 30 seconds, I survived that, I'm able to do it. Next week it goes up to 2 minutes. So every single week we add on 30 seconds to understand that they can overcome anything they put their mind to. So by the very end of our program, we're up to 7 minutes of a wall sit with half their body weight. They get to the point now, they're singing during our wall sits. We put on kids music sometimes. We put on country western music. I put everything possible to tweak our athletes so again, it makes them uncomfortable. Because when they become uncomfortable in here and they learn to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, they're going to be more successful in the field. So that's something unique that we do here that I know talking to other strength coaches, they don't do, but they do. Everyone does some aspect of mental toughness. That's our aspect, is the wall sits and the progression every single week. And our athletes believe they get stronger every week. And that's the biggest thing we want to look for our kids.
That's great. Probably will be stealing that. What is the biggest thing you see young strength coaches entering this field lacking?
Well, all the young kids coming here, they have a pretty good solid base when it comes in the weight room. Where they see the biggest area they really need to address is on the field. So that's speed, agility, quickness, development. Because if you amaze how many kids come in here and I'm like, give me a good agility program, and they don't know how to do it. They can tell you how to write up a good program in regards to strength training, but they really struggle on how to design a program geared towards progression of a speed and agility training program. They can give you a one-day one, but if you ask them to give you a progression on like how would you progress your athletes through an agility session, through a 6 to 8 week period, a lot of kids struggle with that because again, at the undergraduate level, they're not spending time doing it. They maybe spend 1 or 2 days in the classroom setting. And then again, when they come into internships, we're not really giving them a lot of exposure on the field because we do most of our work in the weight room. So I think that's an area where a lot of these young kids will, they need to address is speed work if they can.
Completely agree with that one. That's exactly why in my undergrad I interned at Velocity Sports Performance because I was a weight room guy. All I did was lift weights. I didn't play sport in college, so I didn't know how to move properly. I didn't have that training in high school. So when I had to do my internship to graduate, I looked outside the box. Where was my weakest point? And it was speed and agility. So definitely agree with that one. Next question, continuing with the young strength coaches, what advice would you give to an aspiring strength coach?
Get experience in different places. When I hire GAs, I really try to look at where they've gotten their experience from. Everyone always goes to their undergraduate school to get their initial internship, but are you going to 1 or 2 other places? Because that's important because you're getting exposed to different coaches. I say to all my staff, like, I run my program here a certain way. You need to go to other places to see how other strength coaches are doing because it's not cookie cutter. Everyone has a different, unique way of doing it, and being exposed to as many different programs is so important because, again, everyone's going to coach. Everyone's going to have a different cue for a squat. The squat's still a squat, but what cues are other programs doing? Is there a better way to do it than what we do here? Because, again, everyone has a different approach. It's not a right or wrong way, it's just a different approach. So your experiences at different facilities are going to give you a much better exposure to this field. That's going to make you more marketable going on further to this field.
Yeah. And just today, watching that football lift with your guys, I picked up a few things here and there. Just watching, there's a lot of little differences. We're all doing cleans, we're all squatting, but the flow and how everything worked is a lot different than some of the things. What is one thing or things you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting in this field?
The politics side of this profession, the budget, and all the stuff that goes outside the room that you don't think you're ever going to have to worry about. But it's very important, like staffing, being able to fight for your staff to get more people in here because, unfortunately, this profession, we're our own worst enemy sometimes because, we hoot and holler and sometimes we want to be treated like professionals. And I think it's very important that in this field that we always act like professionals because when we go out and we want to talk to our ADs and say, hey, it's very important that we get qualified people and really experienced people, we always want to act as professional as possible. And I think that's something that, when I was younger, I probably didn't do as well. And it's something I wish I had taken a step back. And now, being in the profession as long as I have, that really does help. When I've got to go upstairs and sit down with my AD and really promote why I need more staff or why I need a bigger budget or why we need new facilities or why we need something that's going to improve the athletes because That's something that's so hard. And I think young coaches, we come with that fire and brimstone, and we want to just get after it, realizing sometimes the perception everyone has outside of our room is so important. So I think that's one thing for me personally. I wish I had known earlier on, because I think it would have helped this program a little bit more if I had that.
Yeah. I actually asked that question to my boss, Coach Van Dyke, on Friday, and that was the exact answer he gave me as well. So, last question, taking a little page out of Ron McKeefer's book. What is one book recommendation that every young strength coach should read?
I'm a Mel Siff guy. I think Super Training is the Bible. I still read that. I'm constantly on the internet. My staff and I are always looking up. I've never stopped reading in this profession, because I go back to when I first started in 1996. There are still programs doing static stretch, and how the progression has gone all the way through the years to where we are now. If you don't stay on top of it, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But I've found that Super Training has really helped me over the years. We read everything all the time. Even if you don't necessarily agree with the philosophy of somebody, still read it, because you have the knowledge of what they're doing, and that's going to make you a better strength coach at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Very nice.